I would like to turn it and say, I would like to make images that intrigue, mystify, create problems of understanding rather than become immediately understandable. I can understand the reasons why you are talking about clarity and you are talking about communication, but I think there is another side to the whole thing. That clarity has become the tool of uh, imposing certain things. For example, the Ahmedabad riverfront project is a superb example of clarity imposed on a completely mobile edge, which was never even an edge, and which was continuously in transformation. And so many creatures, human beings, cows, donkeys, buffaloes, insects, snakes, trees, weeds, all of these and sand, they were all moving, and it's now been stabilized to that one line which doesn't allow movement across. Oh, okay, sorry. uh, so, so I'm going to talk about architecture as 500 years. It connects it to so many things. It's not outside us, it's not that object there, but it is an entire series of lines which run through time and run through space and connect. And that is what is architecture. Are we creatures that exist always at the threshold of the inward and outward being? This edge that you talked about, I think this is very interesting, because the threshold is where always we are. We are neither in the future, we are not in the past, we are all the time at the threshold of the next second and are being always continuously at the threshold. And the threshold of the inside and the outside. My internal space and my external space are being experienced by this body. So, the model of architecture, one is this, as an object. I stand apart from it, it's there, and I judge it. I take its proportions, its size, etc. I can evaluate it, I can judge it. I am distinct from that thing. And which is the current mode since the Renaissance of looking at the work of architecture as an object, capable of being perfected. Perfected by whom? By this thinking mind, which knows mathematics. And there is one whole paradigm. I believe that is a paradigm which has been used to sustain many kinds of plays of power, for example. The other paradigm is that one which weaves in a messy kind of way between where the tree is, the bird is, the insects are, the human beings moving in and out and between, and it's not, everything is inside there. Everything is inside. This is a very interesting concept. I'm inside the world. I'm not outside. So how can there be an object which is outside? All of us are inside something. And this way of thinking was the more the way that primitive people, less clear, less organized people used to think, and they made places which were less clearly defined. And they made space which was very complex. Here, the idea of property, the idea of limits, the clarity of where is outside and what is inside, all that is part of this paradigm. The two paradigms. So, in architecture as the object over and against the observer, you concentrate on outer characteristics. The form of the object, the size of the object. Human beings are a bit like little children. They get fascinated by very big things, such as statues, for example, or very small things. And they get fascinated. You know, you miniaturize something and you say, if I have an elephant which can walk of that size, what a fascinating thing. So we take size. We take intricacy and simplicity. How simple is it? How intricate it is. We take texture and color. We take repetitiveness and diversity. Is it made of one type of thing or many types of things? And that is what the object mode can make us capable of working with. So here's one object. This is a museum in Switzerland by a very famous group of architects called Herzog and de Meuron. It's an art gallery. It's the perfect object. It's completely sealed. It's absolutely geometrical. The forest around it can only reflect itself in the glass. That's about all. Not a single bee can get into this space. Not one mote of dust will come out from there. And it's all the object, the perfect object, clear as you could want it. There it is. This is the paradigm of object architecture. There are less extreme examples. So in the Greek architecture you find there are buildings which are geometric, they are according to the golden proportions, they are clearly mathematical devices and objects which you never enter. The pyramids are objects, supreme objects, because they have no insides except for the ones who are dead or the thieves who want to go and get things from inside. But otherwise there's no inside. And it's the ideal of it. Actually, much of today's architecture wishes to be a pyramid. Its main desire is to be so dead that human beings can be frozen there. The desire of this society, of our societies of this time, is to freeze us and to prevent entanglements. So the pyramid, big, very big, power, glory, and then the contrast. This is what nature does. And here's what human beings can do. There you have it. Human beings have mathematics. They don't have that kind of ragged erosion gullies. Of course, you might find very complex patterns, which you could mathematically explain in the erosion gullies. And there are studies of that. Scientists went afterwards. But at this moment, in Egypt, is the temple of Hatshepsut. The sort of most frightening example. This was a parliament building designed by Hitler's architect, Albert Speer. Fortunately, it was never built. It was huge. This dome can take the entire parliament circle in Delhi inside. It can sit inside. That big. What does it show? It shows absolute control, mastery over nature. It shows power, mastery over human beings. So the regularity of objects can go into bureaucracies also. Delhi is a beautiful example of the bureaucratic mind building architecture. Of course, Delhi has non-bureaucrats, hundreds and thousands and millions of them, and that's what makes it a city, not the things which were built by this kind of repetitive mindset. So I suggest architecture is an active, multifarious field. It's not an object. Here's a little town on the coast of Kenya called Lamu. And this is a mosque. And And you can see how much fun this man has had in simply making the outer wall of the mosque. And how all of these people see the kind of, you see a donkey there, you see the inside of a building there, you see people talking, you see people relaxing there. Here's two other donkeys, here's sand, here's whitewash, there at the back are some trees. All this coming together into a completely non-object like. By the way, this door is from Gujarat. They imported all the woodwork from Gujarat and Kutch in 17th century. Or you go to Banaras and you have the enmeshing of so many different kinds of living and non-living phenomena. And what really sort of fascinates you is the different kinds of hollownesses. And I suggest that architecture are hollownesses in which we dwell. And hollowness is one of the key characteristics which allows the moving in and out. So, architecture is hollows within hollows. You have a big city, you move through the streets, you have a house and its door, you move through a door, you have the courtyard, then you enter the room, there is a hollow, then there is a cupboard, you go to a jarukha and you look out again, and hollow within hollow within hollow, never ending is what is architecture. Which then is the inside, which is the outside. When this architecture can confuse you there, then you really have the problem for cognitive science. So here's this is one of the, this is cave number 19 at Ellora. It is similar to Elephanta, if any of you have been to Elephanta. No, Elephanta. This is at Ellora. So cave number 19 is cut into the mountain. This courtyard is inside. Light is coming from about. Now I move back a little and I see that courtyard. Is it an outside? Is it an inside? Which is the positive? Which is the figure? Which is the ground? Indian architecture is wonderful at doing this. That this, you can see this shape as a shape almost like the column. And it will create confusion between figure and ground. And it's this kind of technique of moving between one and the other state, which is an architectural phenomenon in Indian architecture. So there you are. You see that jar? It's like the column. But the column is like that one. Which is solid? Which is holding it up? Which is inside? Which is outside? All those things start becoming the kind of, what would you call it? A dream state. A kind of state in which you don't think about it, but you start sensing it with your full being. Thinking is a division of the abilities into one focused zone. And much of Indian art is diffusing this into the capacity for all the senses to awaken. So that it tries to prevent thinking, it tries to slow down thinking, it tries to subvert thinking. This is what happens with this architecture. Look at that now. This is all at cave number 19. So that's an internal courtyard, but it's an outside, and it's the sky bringing in. This, of course, is another. This is an Elephanta, which is very similar. So, then I can suggest that architecture is interaction and simultaneous existence of the posture of the body and the structure of the world. My body, up, down, sky, earth, left and right, front and back, is an entire geometric structure. My body is geometric structure. Depending on how I use my posture. And it's very interesting, the Japanese, for example, tend to walk like this, and they are very much aware of things that level. The European city dweller, on the other hand, he has these strong shoes and is trained to walk erect. I don't know if you have noticed that in our cities we sort of slouch around. And we don't mind if, for example, we sort of brush against somebody as if there's a crowd. We don't mind that. We take it for granted. And we have very loose bodies. We have loose bodies, and therefore our eye can move in many different directions. But if you are striding, then your eye has to be in front. And the way in which you walk creates an entire world. It creates an architecture. It creates buildings which stand stiff and firm versus buildings which sort of, edge themselves into your presence. And if it says the street, then the alapna will be done on the street. So some more space. Then you put some leaves. Then you do this. Gone. The outer frame of the house is dissolved. So there is the body, and the triaxial composition of the body, and the triaxial composition of the world. The eye is at the level of judgment. It looks straight, it measures that against that, it takes that, looks at that angle, moves what is front, what is back. Eye is about judgment. The solar plexus is the horizon. This is the horizon of the body. And that horizon says, if I move up, I move down, I get a sort of funny feeling in my stomach. And it's the same with the world. So architecture tries to work with the horizon and creates certain queasiness about horizon, and then comes back to normality. And then below is the womb, is the stomach, udara, we call it, or we call it a garbha, both, and that is an inwardness. A sense of place is, I am in a place, that means I have an inside and I am inside. This is what the architecture of the Indian system would try to work out. And then every posture gives rise to a geometry of a different kind. Not enough time to go into that. So, I suggest that architecture is always experienced as bodies in mutual movement. So it's not my body moving towards a static thing called a building, but that also is a body. The trees around are bodies, the ground and its undulations are bodies, and these are all bodies in mutual movement. Felt with the muscles, architecture is primarily experienced with the muscles and not with the eyes. Eyes are only a recent device which was brought in order that we could mess up the world. But before the eyes, it had muscles. It is felt haptically, kinesthetically. We could smell. And now all we do is to cover up places with pleasant smells, just as we cover them up with pleasant looking wall surfaces and pleasant this. We don't take the world as it is real. It's heard and it's touched. And as you said, touch is more faithful, more fidelity in the touch than in the eye. So there you are. I'm going to a South Indian temple. Sagar took these photographs, wonderful ones, so somewhere near Trichy. So I'm going to this temple and I'm taking a walk through this landscape and watch the rocks, the little bushes, the grass, the path. And it's all part of my architectural experience. The experience of that temple is all of this, not just the building. It comes into view. A little bit of water in front, some rock, far away, a profile. So now the sky becomes active. Look at the clouds, look at the profile of the building. How am I doing for time? Too much? Huh? Time? Move further. And then now, against the sky, I look up as I come near to the Gopuram. And the Gopuram's profile is made with these clouds which are in movement. The Gopuram is in movement as I am moving, and the clouds are in movement as I am moving. And then it starts getting punctures within it, so that I'm moving across that space. I'm moving through with my eye, I am moving into the sky. With my body, I am moving into the temple courtyard, the first prakaram. There you are. And you get this marvelous, see, gate after gate after gate, and it's a kind of and swallowing bit by bit by bit. But it's a wonderful swallow because it gets more and more peaceful as you go inside. And so you go, and the space becomes smaller and nearer to your body, and the hollows become quite varied, and then you start getting choices, and you're not sure whether you want to go this way or that way, but it's there. And then you start getting deep recesses, and you start getting open to sky spaces. See how this movement, it's movement which makes architecture feelable, not staticity. And in fact, the eye cannot work if it is fixed, unless it flickers at a certain number of, whatever per second, and your eye movement is stopped, you'll stop seeing. And the body movement, if it is stopped, space will no longer be there. If you can freeze the body into one position, there won't be any space. But, so you move. And you move further. And now the sounds and the smells come in. And the touch, and it becomes more and more vibrant. And there are things which look of your size, like this fellow here who is doing the puja of the Shivalingam, and he's in stone, but he's my size, a little smaller than me, and fun to work with. And there is all that kind of sort of diffusion of truth, but clarity as a singular thing. That's what happens inside. Further, is it inside? Is that courtyard outside? Where's the light coming from? It gets darker, quieter, smaller. The whole place is populated by these stone columns. And it's as if I'm walking through a crowd of columns as I go inwards, more inwards. And each of these becomes like person. So, as I said, there is a mutual movement. Another temple, and don't worry, I'm not only going to show temples, I will also show a temporary building. So, but this is at Modera, and you could go and see it. It's not far from here, only 80 kilometers. There, the Kund is in front of the temple, and you have to first to go down into the Kund and then come up towards the temple. You can't go walk directly to the temple. I mean, if you are a believer, you can. There's no way around. You can go, but you have to go down into the Kund. Now, the only way you can go down, because the steps are like this, they are sideways, like that. So you'll have to go with this way, and then next set like that, and the next set like that, and you will be turning this way and that way, this way and that way. And every time the whole thing is moving, and the whole temple and the whole Kund is moving now as you walk down. Because when you are on steps, you are at your most alert, because you don't want to fall down. So these steps are made very, very carefully. And still, even if you go there, unless you want to enter the water, you can't reach the temple like that. So you will have to go round, clockwise perhaps, and you will have to reach the temple, going round, still going round. And now, the temple looms above me, and I start climbing the steps, again sideways. And I am going to reach there, up there. The last steps, steep, my muscles now start telling me it's a big climb. I'm sweating perhaps. And I can feel the cool of that shade inside. Even from the sun, I can feel the cool there. I look back at the Kund from where I came, and I enter into this cool world of the Sabha Mandap, or the Natya Mandap as it is often called. And every column even has holes in it, so that the solidity of it, whether it is solid or not solid, is something the Indian sculptor loves to do that. To make dynamic something which is completely static. Sorry. And now you move around. Okay, now the contemporary building. It's the Corbusier's Ahmedabad Textile Mills Association, built in 1954 in Ahmedabad, one of the most important buildings in Ahmedabad, which you must see. It stands on Ashram Road. On the other side is the river. At that time, Ashram Road was a very, very quiet road. Not much activity there. But anyway, he said, you're moving from the city, and I want to take you to the river. I want you to see the river. And so, he made this ramp. This building is standing there. It has a face, like a European building must have a face. But he's in India, and he's learned some things. And he's carved it. He's carved it. He's made it a big hollow into which the person is going to go in. So you climb up the ramp, and it's a tactile, bodily, muscular experience. So go up, go further, go still further, nearly there, and your way is stopped by the lift shaft there. So you have to turn. And this he constantly does. It's a straight line movement, stops it, you have to turn around and go in another direction. This lot of the things come from pre-Renaissance architecture. Sorry. So there you are. You have now entered the Piano Nobile, which is in French term for the main floor. And there you can see the river on the other side. Now, his imagination was, in the old days, before the mills closed down, you would see about 60 chimneys on the other side. And he was thinking these mill owners, they would stand there in front of that and say, we made Ahmedabad. There are the mills, And that was the kind of space that he's thinking about. And then you turn back and you can see the ramp. And you can see a little staircase. And you can start going up the staircase. Next floor you can't go by ramp. You have to go up the staircase and you reach here. You reach into this, which looks out onto the river. There's again a still smaller staircase. You look back at where you came from. Constantly there is this movement which is going forward and looking, yes, I came from there. And I'm going towards there. It's happening that way. Then I go up the tiny staircase. In the old days, there used to be a sign there, not more than 3 persons at a time. Now they've removed that sign. But you can go up there. From there, you start seeing the outside space and the river, and back towards the entry, and then finally you reach up, and the sky is opened up. So you started with the ground, you reached the sky, and that was your basic experience of the architectural promenade, as it called it. Last thing, architecture says here. It says, it tells what happened. What happened years ago. What happened ages ago. What happened centuries ago, decades ago, years ago. All of those histories are woven into that architecture. What was that place like before something was made? What was important to those who built it? All this can be read by staying and moving around and let your imagination also work with the architecture. It also says what tools were used, how were the parts put together, what sense of order prevailed, what was the kind of way in which those people thought about mathematics, or they thought about serial order, or they thought about hierarchies or none, and so on and so forth. So here you are. This is the story of that hill, the rock, which was there several million years ago when the Deccan Trap was formed. And this temple is the temple telling about the Deccan Trap. It doesn't talk about much more than that, because Shiva was of course there at that time. He probably made it. And this temple is talking about the craftspeople who could do all these things. Marvelous work. And this is Sarkhej, another very wonderful place in Ahmedabad, the mausoleum, the Rosa of Sarkhej. And this is talking about geometry. Islam and Islamic architecture works with geometry because they believe it is the divine order, and architecture must try to find the divine order. So here it is, simple lines, using the Gujarati technique of building, not bringing an external technique of building, but just tweaking it to create not a monument to the craft of sculpting, but a monument to the craft of thinking geometrically. So I move forward. Another building. This is at the Manav Sangrahalaya in Bhopal. It's a tribal temple, and you can see they've used stone, they've used wood there and stone there. And wood is something that grows. Maybe a tree takes 100 years. When you keep it for 200, 300 years, it doesn't go bad. Stone is for thousands of years. And like that, all kinds of pipe are collapsed into it, all kinds of techniques of making. Look how beautifully this woodwork has been done to stabilize it in the horizontal direction. If you were a structural engineer, you would really look at this as something which is a wonderful way of combating earthquakes, for example. But there it is. In a humbler version in South Gujarat, the same kind of fascination with making and architecture as the story of how one makes. This is in the northeast, and you weave an architecture there. You don't build an architecture, you weave it. And with all this then, the object disappears. The person who made it, the tool which made it, the time when it was made, how you are walking through, whether you are tired or not. All of those are coming together simultaneously in the experience of our